Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Melinda Crane, and it is my very great pleasure to welcome you to Transforming Transportation 2015. I will be accompanying you as moderator for the next 2 days. We meet at the outset of a year that will be of defining importance for global sustainability. As you know, the international community is in the midst of negotiating new Sustainable Development Goals and a new climate change agreement. At the moment, transport, our subject here, is a very big part of the challenge. It is the world's second largest source of energy-related CO2 emissions, and it's also growing faster than any other sector. This forum aims to make transport part of the solution. Most people in this room work in the sector, so you hardly need me to remind you that business as usual is not going to get us there. What transformative strategies hold promise? What transformative approaches are really working, in fact? That's what we want to talk about over the next 2 days. In 5 wide-ranging plenary discussions, as well as in technical sessions, you will have an opportunity to share ideas and experiences with leaders from government, business, and civil society. And you can also follow Transforming Transportation on social media at hashtag TTDC15, and you can get more detailed conference information and live streaming at www.transformingtransportation.org. Urban mobility has a particularly crucial role to play in promoting sustainable and inclusive growth, which is why our forum is subtitled Smart Cities for Shared Prosperity. But what is a smart city? And what can it do to organize mobility for its residents? That's the topic of this opening session, featuring a keynote speaker who has made a tremendous contribution to mapping out cities' contribution to a new climate economy. We begin now with a word of welcome from our hosts. It is my honor to hand over to Pierre Guillain, Senior Director, Transport and ICT Global Practice at the World Bank, and to Andrew Steer, President and Chief Executive Officer of the World Resources Institute. Gentlemen, the podium is yours.
Thank you, Melinda. It's a pleasure to see such a full room for such an important topic. Ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, welcome to this 12th edition of Transforming Transportation, an annual event co-organized by the Transport and ICT Global Practice of the World Bank and by Embark of the World Resources Institute, the Initiative for Sustainable Transport and Urban Development. First of all, let me thank our World Resources Institute and World Bank teams for putting together an exciting agenda for the next 2 days. And huge thanks also to our Transforming Transportation 2015 supporting partners. I would also like to thank our panelists and participants. I know that many of you have traveled far to be with us today, and we're particularly honored to have you here, President Calderon. 2015, as Melinda already indicated, will be a pivotal year, a critical year. In September, the UN General Assembly will launch the post-2015 development agenda, including a set of 17 sustainable development goals. 6 of these goals are directly related to transport and ICT, including goal number 3 on improving road safety and goal 11 on urban mobility. And as we know, the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, have had a tremendous impact on development over the past decade. And so basically these SDGs are a new opportunity, and we're really happy to see transport as part of those, which wasn't the case before. In November then, the UN Climate Change Conference will meet in Paris with the aim of reaching a global agreement on climate change. And again, transport will play, as Melinda already indicated, a critical part in that process. Also in November, in Brasilia, the second global high-level conference on road safety will mark the halfway point in the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. Again, an important milestone for us in this year. And in terms of the UN Decade of Action, we're not there yet. Much needs to be done to get back on track. So, what are the objectives of our meeting of Transforming Transportation 2015? As transport professionals, we have an important role to play in steering the international community towards smart, sustainable transport solutions. And we have chosen this year's theme, Smart Cities for Shared Prosperity, to focus our support where it matters most. Cities are more relevant than ever. 2014 marks the first time that 50% of the world's population is urban. By 2050, this share will reach close to 70%. Furthermore, the urban shift is mostly happening in the developing world, which are our clients for the World Bank Group. With cities being the engines of innovation, growth, and jobs, smart urban mobility is key to sustainable development, to ending poverty and boosting shared prosperity. I see three key urbanization and transport challenges that require immediate attention. First and foremost, we need to ensure that accessibility to jobs and services does not become a constraint for the poorest inhabitants of large cities. Too often, cities' potential to eliminate extreme poverty is undermined by the lack of safe and affordable access to jobs, education, health, and other public services. When women in Dhaka have to walk over 10 kilometers each way to get to their factory jobs, these jobs cease to be a real opportunity for a really better life. An important aspect of tackling this challenge is to ensure that cities have high-quality walking, cycling, and public transport options that allow the bottom 40 of the population to safely and affordably access urban opportunities. A second but related challenge has to do with motorization. Whilst tackling the challenge of providing basic levels of accessibility for all, cities are getting overwhelmed with a rapid growth in motorization. For a city like Beijing, the cost of traffic congestion and air pollution is estimated at 7 to 15% of GDP. But for the fast-growing numbers of the new middle class, the ability to own a car is not just about transport. It is also an aspiration, a status symbol. They've made it. I count on you all to help us think creatively about solutions that meet people's aspirations and are good for our environment. Finally, I cannot overemphasize the importance of coordinating transport and spatial development. When infrastructure and planning incentives in urban areas come together to encourage spatial growth along transit corridors, it creates cities that are more compact, more energy efficient, and that offer the poor more opportunities. Too often still, as they grow horizontally, cities are harder to effectively serve with competitive public transport, thus restricting the effective size of the labor market for the poor. In addition to the movement of people, creating smart, more sustainable cities also requires thinking about urban logistics, the flow of goods, including freight, post, and waste collection, for example. To conclude these welcoming remarks, I'd like to stress the sense of urgency. The urgency in tackling these challenges. Cities are investing now in transport infrastructure that will structure their growth and last for decades. If we want smart cities, we must support smart urban mobility now. On this note, let me turn the microphone over to our excellent partner, the World Resource Institute, Andrew Steer, President and CEO. Thank you, Andrew, for co-hosting.
Thank you, Pierre. Welcome, everybody. It's a great joy to co-sponsor this very important event. On behalf of the World Resources Institute, I'd like to express my warm welcome. It's good also to be back here at the World Bank, and it's good that cities and transport are back. You know, when I was a young economist at the World Bank a long time ago, cities and transportation were the sexiest things to be working on. Attracted the best people, the best resources. Then for about 20 years, we lost our way, didn't we? Blame the Millennium Development Goals, because they were all about poverty and mainly rural poverty, and we lost our way with regard to cities and transport. And what an exciting thing it is now that this is once again at the very top of the agenda. When 228 mayors sign up to the Compact of Mayors to commit to do things differently, this is an exciting time. As Pierre says, when we have a new set of sustainable development goals that put infrastructure, transport, cities at their very heart, this is surely an exciting time. And people in this room have been part of an intellectual revolution and a substantive revolution that is really just getting underway. And it's underway because the scale of the issue is vast. When the world starts realizing that it's 750 million people every decade that are being added to the cities of the world, and that's 100% of the entire growth of world population. When we focus on the fact that 75% of the infrastructure that will exist in cities in 2050 hasn't been built yet, when we focus on the fact that actually the area of cities will probably triple by 2040, the scale of the issue is huge. And so too is the recognition that current paths are not acceptable and are not working. When many cities in the world are losing 10% of their city GDP because of congestion, and another 10% of their city GDP because of pollution, when 1.2 million people are losing their lives every year due to fatalities in cities from traffic, surely this is driving a need to do things differently. And so too, people in this room have been central at actually coming up with new ways of doing business. Consider just bus rapid transit as just one. From one city to 200 cities in the space of 3 decades, with huge gains. Go to Istanbul, and you'll find that those who take bus rapid transits are saving 28 days per year of their lives, simply in saving time from congestion. Go to Mexico City, and you'll see that fatalities on the routes covered by bus rapid transits have fallen by 45%. So incredible sort of gains of a new way of doing business. So too technology. Go to Rajkot, India, and you'll see GPS now on the auto rickshaws, which enable auto rickshaws to allocate their journeys much more effectively. So we're seeing a whole set of revolutions underway, and that's what this conference is about. At the World Resources Institute, we give a great deal of priority to this, and I'd like briefly to introduce Annie Dasgupta, who comes to us from the World Bank. He is our new director of the WRI Ross Center for Sustainable Cities. Annie, do you want just to come up here and just say one quick word, if you would, as to what we're planning to do in the months and years ahead?
Good morning. This looks oddly familiar. Well, it's a great pleasure to join Pierre and Andrew to welcome you to what's going to be 2 absolutely fantastic days ahead of us. I mean, to me, it seems, for the longest time, people like me and a lot of people in this room have talked about, we need political commitment. If we just had political commitment, we'll get things done. You will hear in the next 2 days from leading mayors across the world, few of them what commitment they have made and the solutions they have tried to find in the cities to move them forward. And you'll hear directly from them, but they're not alone. As Andrew mentioned, 350 mayors across the world have committed to publicly and signed on to reduce 12 gigatons of emissions until 2050. It's a very large number. It's about 3,500 coal-fired plants what will produce in a year. But these commitments would not become reality without partnerships and without actual clever solutions that I hope we get to discuss in the next 2 days. So I hope next 2 days, this is what we are committed to, is actually find solutions and partnerships that help this commitment become reality, not for these 350 cities only, but cities across the world. So I'm literally looking forward to it, and join Andrew and Pierre again to really productive 2 days ahead of us. Thank you, Andrew.
Great. Thank you, Annie, very much. So, welcome. One of our board members, Jaime Lerner, who was the iconic mayor of Curitiba, when we started to expand our work and we created our new Center for Sustainable Cities, I called him up and I said, what should I know that you have learned? He said that actually most people look at cities and they think they're so complicated. They think it will take a lifetime to change them. He said it's wrong. If you know what you really want to do, if you've got a clear vision of where you're going, if you have the ability to build coalitions, and you have a reasonably good governance system, you can, within the political lifetime of a mayor, make a difference that is really huge. And in this room, we have people, we're about to see some mayors that are doing that. I noticed people like Robin Chase here on the second row here, who's also a board member of the World Resources Institute, creator of Zipcard, thinking out of the box, and that's what we want to do here today. Now, it's my great pleasure now to introduce our keynote speaker, President Felipe Calderon of Mexico. Many people in this room saw him at work when he was chairing the COP in Cancun, which restored the issue of climate change, created the idea of a green climate fund. Many of us saw him when he chaired one of the most successful G20s ever as president of Mexico, where green growth was central. Many of us saw him when he was the first leader in the emerging and developing world to pass a law on climate change, which enabled many of the things that are now happening in Mexico with regard to low carbon development. And over the last year, we've seen him as chair of the Global Commission on the Economy and Climate, which is asking the exam question: how do we get from here, low efficiency, high carbon world economy, to where we need to go, a high efficiency, low carbon world economy? President Calderon, it's a great honor. The floor is yours. Thank you very much.